We got the call just after 7:30 in the morning. That alone was unusual. Most of our work came in days ahead of time, scheduled through insurance adjusters or restoration coordinators. This one didn't. The woman on the phone sounded tired, distracted, like she'd already explained herself too many times. She told us she needed a rush cleaning job done on a small townhouse that had been hit by flash flooding. Mud, water damage, debris. She said she didn't want to wait for a larger crew. "My husband and I can handle it," my wife told her, "if it's just one unit." "That's fine," the woman said quickly. "The house is empty." The flooding had been bad that week. Entire neighborhoods near the river had been evacuated. Some streets were still blocked off. Power crews were everywhere. You couldn't turn on the news without hearing about it. We knew people had died. That was part of why we didn't ask many questions. When disaster hits, details get messy. That's something we'd learned early in this line of work. After floods, fires, or storms, people don't always remember what they've said or who they've talked to. Homes change hands temporarily. Family members step in and out. Neighbors help. Contractors rotate through. We'd been sent to houses before where no one on site matched the name on the paperwork. Sometimes relatives handled things. Sometimes keys were left with neighbors. Sometimes people assumed someone else had already explained everything. In situations like that, you rely on verbal confirmation more than written proof, especially when everyone involved sounds exhausted and overwhelmed. Nothing about the call felt wrong, just hurried. The woman told us she didn't live at the townhouse anymore. She said she'd meet us there to unlock the door, but warned she might be late because she was coming from another town. "If I'm not there yet," she said, "the house should already be accessible." That phrasing stuck with me later. At the time, it didn't seem important. We loaded our equipment into the truck, pressure washer, cleaning solution, protective gear, and headed out. The drive took just under an hour. As we got closer, the damage became obvious. Mud lines on the sides of buildings, piles of ruined furniture stacked at curbs, people standing quietly in front of homes, talking to insurance adjusters. The townhouse complex was small, 2-story units, all built the same, narrow driveways, shared walls. The house we were assigned stood near the edge of the complex. Mud covered the lower half of the front door. We parked and waited a few minutes, expecting the woman to arrive. She didn't. After 10 minutes, my wife checked her phone. "Maybe she's running late," she said. "She told us the house was empty." We debated whether to wait longer or start unloading. That's when we noticed the front door was already unlocked. We stood on the porch for a moment, unsure. "I'll knock," I said. I knocked once, loud enough to echo inside. Nothing. I knocked again. This time, footsteps answered. Slow, heavy, coming from inside the house. The door opened. An older man stood there, holding the door with one hand. He looked tired, but not confused. Late 60s, maybe older. Gray hair, neatly combed. His clothes were clean. Not work clothes, not sleepwear, just a plain sweater and slacks. "Yes?" he asked. We both froze for half a second. "I'm sorry," my wife said. "We're with a cleaning company. A woman called us about flood damage." The man nodded slowly. "She said you'd be coming," he replied. "That should have surprised us. It didn't." "Oh," I said. "We were told the house was empty." He smiled faintly, like that statement amused him. "Please," he said, stepping aside. "Come in." Then he turned and walked upstairs. The inside of the house smelled like damp wood and earth. Mud coated the lower walls. Furniture had been pushed aside, soaked and ruined. The flood damage was exactly what we expected. Nothing about the house felt staged. The man didn't act like someone who was hiding something or confused about why we were there. He didn't ask who sent us or what company we worked for. He didn't hesitate. That kind of confidence matters more than paperwork when you're doing cleanup work. People who don't belong usually ask questions. They stall. They hover. He didn't. He treated us like we were expected, like the situation had already been explained, and our arrival was simply the next step. That's why neither of us questioned him. Nothing felt wrong. We assumed the man was the homeowner's father, or maybe someone helping out after the flood. We didn't follow him upstairs. We started setting up. About 20 minutes later, a car pulled up. The woman from the phone call stepped out. She looked exhausted. "I'm so sorry I'm late," she said as she approached. "Traffic was worse than I thought." "No problem," my wife replied. "We've already started." The woman paused. "You did?" "Yes," I said. "Your father let us in." Her expression changed. Not fear, confusion. "My father," she repeated. "Yes," my wife said gently. "An older man. He went upstairs." The woman stared at us for a moment longer than felt comfortable. Then she took a breath and nodded. "Okay," she said quietly. "I have to leave again. But please let me know when you're done." She turned back toward her car. "I'll come back later to inspect the work and lock up." As she drove away, my wife looked at me. "Why would she need to lock the house?" she said, "if her father's still here?" I didn't have an answer. We both assumed there was something complicated going on. Family stress, grief, confusion after the flood. We decided not to pry. We worked for over 5 hours. During that time, we became aware of how quiet the house really was. Not just the absence of voices, but the absence of movement. We didn't hear the television upstairs. We didn't hear footsteps crossing the floor. We didn't hear a bathroom door open or close. At one point, my wife asked if we should check on the man, just to make sure he was okay. I told her we shouldn't bother him. Older people often rest after traumatic events, and the last thing we wanted to do was intrude. Still, the silence stayed with us. It felt less like someone being upstairs, and more like the house itself was holding its breath. Pressure washing the mud from the floors, cleaning debris from the baseboards, moving damaged items to one side so they could be removed later. The house stayed quiet. We didn't hear footsteps upstairs. We didn't hear doors open or close. But we assumed the man was resting. When we finished, the sun was already lower in the sky. "Let's let him know we're done," my wife said. She called out from the bottom of the stairs. "Sir, we're finished downstairs." No response. I called out next. "Hello, we're all done." Nothing. I felt a tightness in my chest that I couldn't explain. "We should check," I said. We walked upstairs together. Every door was open. Every room was empty. No signs of anyone staying there. No personal belongings. No clothes. No bed disturbed. We searched the entire second floor. Nothing. We went back downstairs. The front door was still unlocked. My wife whispered, "There was no one here." We didn't argue. We didn't speculate. We packed our equipment in silence and left. Neither of us said anything until we were halfway down the road. "That man wasn't alive," my wife finally said. I didn't respond. A few minutes later, I realized something else. We hadn't taken the required photos for documentation. We pulled over and called the woman. She answered on the second ring. "We're so sorry," I said. "We forgot to take photos before leaving. We just had a question first." "Okay," she said. "Who was the man that let us into the house?" There was a long pause. "That was my father," she said quietly. My stomach dropped. "He drowned during the flooding last week." Another pause. "We just finished his funeral a few days ago." I couldn't speak. "I'm not going to inspect the house," she continued. "Please just tell me how I can pay you." Her voice wasn't shaken. It was final. We never returned to that house. We never asked follow-up questions. We processed the payment remotely and closed the job. but neither of us forgot the way that man calmly let us in, as if the house was still his responsibility.